Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Josh Long here with AME Podcast, kind of my quest to talk to folks who are continuing to making music, what I call past the classroom, lifelong music education. We're actually sponsored by our company called Art and Music Emporium, serving artistic excellence. We do lessons, supplies, rentals, those kind of things. We also do these performance initiatives, which kind of go along with this. Such things as the annual Community Band by the Sea in Wildwood, New Jersey. And that actually is going to happen on July 27th of this year, depending on when you're watching it, 2024. And we're also doing one up in Music Fest at Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, called the Bethlehem Steel Company Legacy Band, which is happening on August 10th. So both of those events, if you're interested in being involved with them, do check out our website, www.artmusicemporium.com. We also offer things such as Tuba Christmas, too. Again, depending on when you're watching these. We do one in Easton, Pennsylvania, and Belvedere, New Jersey. We are on Facebook. Do like Art Music Emporium or Joshua E. Long. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'd love for you to subscribe so you can hear more of when our podcasts and videos do come out. We would love that. And we also have a Patreon account where all the money and proceeds go to, once again, getting people out there playing their instruments and what I call lifelong learning and music education. Such a big fancy word. But we have a great guest today, actually one that I met down in Wildwood when we started our annual Community Band by the Sea, down in the days when the pandemic was getting over. She came in, started playing for us, and she's been a wonderful supporter and a wonderful friend. I know she's a clarinetist, and she plays in Maryland in many different community bands, and also the Baltimore Ravens Marching Band, which is very cool to see. And not to be smart here, an adult still doing marching band. Like, really, this is awesome. So please, let's take it away and say hello to Annmarie Corsale. Hey, Annmarie, how are you?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. So I thought we'd start talking a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of dive into all the, fun things that you're doing today. And we'll go from there. So if you don't mind sharing just a little bit about your musical background, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Cape May, New Jersey. And when I was 8 years old, it was time to introduce music lessons into the classroom. So I immediately was like, percussion. I'm going to be a percussionist. And my uncle was in charge, and he worked for the school system. And he was like, I think we need some woodwinds. And I was like, flute, give me a flute. And he was like, absolutely not. We need a clarinet. So it was not on my radar. It was not an instrument that I wanted. And I blew into it and I never stopped. So I started at 8 years old and I just kept on playing. When I was a junior in high school, I left that school district and I moved to Wildwood. And I was taken out of the band program because my academic schedule didn't fit the band schedule. And I remember throwing a fit and saying, I still want to play in the band. Let me in the band. So I got the principal to rework my schedule and he got me back into the band. And through Wildwood High School under Mr. Charles Syvarth, I got some pretty awesome experiences. I got to do some solos with competitions that we did with like Hershey Park or like Dorney Park, like kind of music in the parks type ideas. I was also given an opportunity to play my senior year with the University of Pennsylvania Marching Band. But I did one concert with their concert band. So I got to go up for Friday and rehearse with them. And then Saturday we did the show. And then like a month later, I got to go back and I got to perform with their pep band for a basketball game, which was cool. Really, really cool. But then after that, I kind of stopped. I went to college and I did not pursue music. I pursued an education degree as a whole instead. And I put my clarinet down for a year, if even. And I was like, I miss it. I want to do something with it. So I got into a summer band program that one of the local high school directors was doing. And then fast forward a little bit more than that, I moved and I found myself in Maryland. And I was feeling really homesick. I missed my beach town kind of laid back vibes. And I remember calling my mom one night and saying, like, what can I do to find a sense of community? Where can I find where I fit in this big, huge state? And she was like, you play the clarinet. And I was like, okay, that's a start. And she said, why don't you look for some bands that you can join? So I got on Google and I typed in like community bands near me, and the Bel Air Community Band popped up.
Mm-hmm.
And so I immediately reached out, and Phyllis, she's our, I guess, librarian. She does all of the things essentially, other than being our band president. And she got back to me and she was like, what are your credentials? And I said, well, they're not the greatest professional credentials. I never pursued music in college. I didn't have private lessons and, all the things. And she's like, you sound good enough to me. Come on Monday night. And I haven't stopped going since. So that was in 2016. And I've been playing consistently with the Bel Air Band since. And I've had some really awesome experiences with them. We just did Maryland Community Band Day this past Sunday. And tons of bands from around the state came, and it was a really awesome day of just making music outside in a park. And so then, I guess it was 2 years ago, I infiltrated, as I like to say, the Upper Chesapeake Community Band. They're in Cecil County, which is a little north of me, but it's still worth it for the drive. They were an incredible band and incredibly welcoming. But I'm kind of taking a break from them because I also got a little bit of a crazy side to me. And I decided, in spite of me having zero marching band history, that I was going to audition for the Marching Ravens. And so for a couple of weeks leading up to auditions last season, I was on Google, my best friend, night and day, searching all of the information I could gather about what is the side one from side two difference, and what does front to back mean, and how do I march, what is 8-5, what does it mean to dress the line, all of the terms that I just didn't have the opportunity to learn in high school because we didn't have a field marching band. And I went out to auditions and I told myself, if I get in, great. If I don't, I tried. And long story short, I got in. And then long story made even shorter, I got in again this season, and I decided to try out my luck at going for section leader. So I applied and I got it. So this year I am the clarinet section leader for the Baltimore Marching Ravens.
Well, that's awesome. Congrats. Kind
of my background up to today. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I didn't even know that. That's great.
Yeah, my little secret.
Well, hey, I kind of want to unpack a little bit, kind of a thing. And I joke, you'll kind of laugh at this. This is my little joke, is like, you were so interested in percussion in the beginning, and like, so is everyone else. They all want to play the drums. And then I laughed today because, it's a joke between all the community band directors. We can't find any percussionists. Like, where did they go?
They're all playing woodwinds.
Yeah, exactly. They played other instruments or whatever, So that's kind of, so if you can remember, and this is what I always like to ask, like, when you were first, interested in playing an instrument, okay, what was it about that instrument or the band, for example, that really got you interested? And I'm just talking school right now.
Sure.
When you were, it was time, you said, it's time for me to play an instrument. And most people are like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. So I was just interested to see, how your interest kind of thrived, if you don't mind. Talking about
so I come from a very artistic family background. My mom was a dancer. She was in theater. My grandfather was a professional ballroom dancer. My uncle is a musician. So I think that I was naturally inclined to have an interest in music. But I think I was really excited to try something new. And I very vividly remember the first day that they gave me that clarinet, and I just had the mouthpiece, the barrel, and the top joint, and they said, hold it like this and blow some air, and I got the nastiest squeak, and I was like, this is everything. This is amazing. This is so fun. I couldn't wait to go home and tell my mom, and she was like, what did we just get into? And it was just so cool to me. It was just really exciting to be able to have this instrument and make music with it.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's awesome. And the funny thing is that's also another side joke, and parents get involved with this. It's like, they're making all these noises, and it's gonna be, sometimes horrible sounding, to everybody because it's
Right.
just noise, right? It's not
Yep.
music. But look at you now, like how great sounds you make with your clarinet, I just say it
Thanks.
that way. Well, that's awesome. And then I know you made a comment that you did kind of move to Wildwood, and you seemed like you wanted to be in band. And I'm trying to
Mhm.
relive some of this stuff because, I'm trying to unpack like what people's motivation is.
Sure.
And you made a comment that you made them move your schedule.
I sure
You know what I
did.
mean?
I sure did. My mom was
So,
like, she's crazy.
so if you can kind of expand on that, what was it about that,
Yeah,
that you just wanted to be there?
yeah, kind of like what I mentioned when I said that I moved out to Maryland. It's
Hmm.
that sense of community that you get in band, the friendships that I was making in band, they were just genuine friends. We all related on this common love of making music.
Hmm.
And, it was a good escape for a lot of us, I think, in school. But for me, especially when I was a kid, I was going through a lot in my personal life at home.
Sure.
Things were not good. And I was able to go to band class every week, every day,
Hmm.
and escape through the music. Just I love to
Hmm.
listen to music, so being able to make the music too, it's just such a release of stress. It's almost like
Right.
how I think people compare going to the gym feels for them, or like you're a runner. I'm sure
Hmm.
that you love running because it helps you release that stress. For
Right.
me, playing my instrument helps me forget all of the stressors around
Right.
me. And I remember when I moved to Wildwood, I was like, they can't take that away from me. I don't know any of these kids. I don't know. I don't know this area. This is new, but I knew band. So
Yeah.
I needed that in my life
Yeah.
still.
Well, there's two things that, you just kind of said. You said that relieves stress. So for example, today I've had one of the crazy impossibles. It's kind of the end of the school year for everybody, and
Right.
it's insane, and I was very grumpy today, and I went and played a concert today with a local community band, and like immediately, your
Yep.
mind shifts.
It's so
It's
true.
like, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? So I guess like it, how do we describe that? You know what I mean? Like, how do we
Right.
describe that to somebody where it's like, yeah, my mind shift. I mean, I'm serious. I mean, I was
Yeah.
very, very grouchy today.
Yeah.
I
Like
will
I said,
publicly say
I
that.
think it's just like how people that are in love with going to the gym would compare it. You're super stressed out at work, you go to the gym and you work out. For me, I'm
Yeah.
stressed out at work, I go to band rehearsal and I play my instrument. And when I am done, I feel better. I also
Yeah.
feel like I can sing like a choir operatic amazing human being, but I can't.
Yeah. And I know like tonight it was just like you saying, it's like singing. I was like bopping to the music, like
Yep.
walking out, to
Yeah.
my vehicle. And it's like, what is this?
Yeah.
And then you made this comment that, and I'm just interested because you said that you didn't know anything else. And but then at the same time you said, I want to join band Wildwood. And I'm talking when you moved, right?
Hmm.
You said, I want to join band because of the community, but you didn't know what the community
Nope.
was.
Nope. I just knew that they would accept me there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Hmm.
And what is it about that with band? Like I always try to say it because I've experienced it too, and I've gone through it. And I was a band kid, and I was in high school, and
Yeah.
I met my wife in band. It's like
Yeah.
everything we're talking about. It's like it's all band, but like I, it's hard to describe that. That it's
Right.
just that culture where everybody, you're all like in this club. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. We might not have much in common, but we know that
Mhm.
we all have this common interest in music. So that's that one easily relatable thing that we can cling on to get to know each other as individuals too, but
Right.
also knowing that we can all come together and play our individual instrument to make one
Mhm.
whole sound. And
Yeah,
it's really special.
yeah, I would say definitely say it is special. And and as you say that, and you got in high school, and then you didn't mention, when and I'm just using this just because of the things I'm pointing out,
Sure.
like of your interests, like you moved to Maryland, and you're like, oh, I need this sense of community, and that's the first place that you
Hmm.
went to, which your mom did say, so kudos to her,
Yeah.
because sometimes we get
She
lost from
knows me
that, right?
well. Yeah.
Right, but and let me just explain that too, because this is something, because I know some of the members that you are playing with, because they're
Hmm.
obviously coming to the annual community band by the sea,
Yeah.
as I call it down in Wildwood. What you mentioned that, hey, come here and join, like joining an adult community band, for example, if you can remember at Bel Air. How was that? Like was it like what happened that first night? Do you remember?
Yeah. They told me where to go and I got lost, but that's besides the point. But when I got there, I remember walking in and Phyllis, our secretary, she
Mhm.
met me right away and she was like, "You must be our new clarinet player. Hey, it's nice to meet you. Come sit with the clarinets. This is
Mhm.
Ray. You know Ray." She
Yep.
said, "This is our section leader. He'll
Yep.
kind of sort you out." And he was like, "Okay, I've got you, I don't know, third chair, third clarinet." And I was like, "Wonderful. I'm just happy to be here." So I sat down and everybody around me immediately was like, "Hey,
Mhm.
it's so nice to meet you. I'm so and so. Where are you from? What do you do? What is your experience?" And it was just so welcoming immediately. So
Mhm.
like any
Yep.
sort of stress or anxiety that I might have been feeling was gone just
Mhm.
like that because everybody
Okay.
was just as excited to meet me as I was hopeful to meet them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and there's something big about that. I know it's like it's and I find that, and maybe I feel that you found this, like going into new places because I think I moved around, I was
Yeah.
teaching and all over the different place, and it was like anytime you walk into that rehearsal, it's just like it's
Mhm.
like finding long lost friends.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? That
absolutely.
you
It
didn't
really
even
is.
know to begin with, right?
Mhm. Yep, it's so true. I mean, the Ravens band especially,
Mhm.
everybody there has been so welcoming and so
That's awesome.
friendly and kind, and I just can't say enough nice things about all of my music friends. They're all welcoming and kind and accepting.
Yeah.
It's just the best way I can say it. They're just accepting, and it's really special to have that.
Yeah. Well, I'm after this, like, idea of community all the time. We kind of define what community is, and it's, oh, it's you're living in a community and I'm living
Mhm.
in a community, right? But I think it's finding these little facets in life that really,
Yeah.
structure that way. And I keep poking at it and I don't know how to describe it. That's why I'm doing these things.
Yeah,
Because I'm trying
exactly.
to figure it out. And I
Right.
probably never will, but it's all about, I think what you're saying is just like getting in there and being, just doing your craft and just being
Mhm.
accepting. And I think accepting is a big thing because, unfortunately in our world, there's not a lot of accepting, right? There's a
Mhm.
lot of weirdness and we don't need to go into that stuff. But,
Right.
it's nice that those kind of little facets, still exist. Well, and
Mhm.
and still talking, and I have a couple other questions for you, but still talking about, your kind of move. Can you
Mhm.
like expand a little bit about, you stopped for, what was it, a year? I think you said,
Yeah, if even.
if even if that, right?
Yeah.
So what was going through your mind during that year, if I may ask? And in music, and I mean, oh, like, life comes up, that kind of thing. Because
Yeah,
what
sure.
I'm after is I call this whole thing of what people's motivation is, after the classroom, right? So
Mhm.
you can be in the high schools, you can be in, a school district, a college, a band, whatever. And then it all
Mhm.
ends, and people sometimes feel like, oh, I only play during that band, or I only
Right.
play during that time. And then school ends, that community ends, right?
Yep.
But you had that year essentially, and then you kind of got
Mhm.
back into it. So, I mean, were you striving to go for it? I mean, what were you? I guess my question is what were you thinking? If
Yeah,
you could remember, that is, if you can,
right. Yeah, so I stopped because just like you said, I played through high school and I didn't plan at that time to pursue
Mhm.
music in any form, mostly because I just thought, well, I'm coming from an underprivileged school district where,
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to explore other instruments. I mean, my
Right.
Mr. Sybarth was amazing. He let me play saxophone, he let me play the flute, but he just gave me a book and said, "Here you go, take this
Right.
home and you can play it." So I was like, I don't know that I'm necessarily cut out for music education. So I went
Right.
to community college and
Okay.
there's no band in community college. So
Right.
I took a break. But it was pretty quickly after that that I was like, I miss it. I miss that
Yeah.
sense of community and belongingness. So let me see what I can get into. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, all we had in our community was for adults after school was
Yeah.
the summer band program that was
Okay.
running at that time. So that's what I jumped into.
Well, that's good. At least you had something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that strive, and I get it, because, like, little secret about me. I know you know me as Mr. Music, right? But when I went to college, I didn't go for music right away. I actually went into business, and
Yeah. I didn't know that.
I was at Penn State, and it was so the first 2 years I kind of just did it. It was like I should have went to a community college, but I did more like
Right.
general education credits and stuff. Well,
Hmm.
I just had this burning inside. I just couldn't stand it. So of course, I didn't have at that time. I didn't have a euphonium.
Mhm.
I got a trombone, and I went and joined. There was the Liberty Band in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. I joined, right? Just to play because I just
Yeah.
missed it so much. And I think
Yeah.
like when you're away from it, it's like it's a calling, and I feel
Absolutely.
like you had that. You know what I mean? That kind
Absolutely.
of calling to play, and then and you jump back in. And
Yeah.
it just thrives me because this is where I kind of want to go next. It's like, right away, how you describe this, which I think is awesome. And I'm not, it's just totally awesome to me how you were like, you know what? I think I'm going to go join the Baltimore Ravens Marching Band. I'm going to try out. And you're like, I never marched. And I
Yep.
went and
Nope.
Googled everything.
Yeah.
And I could probably see it in your mind. You practiced and you did all this
Uh-huh.
stuff and did
Oh,
all
I
of this. And
did.
I mean, like, what a motivation. You know what I mean? Like, that is
Yeah.
amazing. Most people have that experience and they kind of walk into it, but you had
Yeah.
very minimal
I
to
knew
none.
nothing. Yep. All I
you
knew
know?
was how to play my clarinet, and it was at a very, intermediate level, if you will. And
Yeah.
I was like, what can I do next? How can I further my musical career, if you will,
Yeah.
and people told me that Maryland had the marching band and that it was
Mhm.
really awesome and it had great history attached to it. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's something I would love to be able to say I'm a part of.
Right.
So I did it.
Well, I just think you're courageous for that. Like, I mean, just think about, self researching, self education. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
mean, just think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
just think, and I mean, we're laughing about it, but like in all seriousness,
Yeah.
it's like think about that drive for a second. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where and you said it to yourself, if I don't make it, don't make it. That's okay. But you gave it all you could
I
and you
wanted to
got
make
there.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're there and now you're a section leader. So I mean, I
Yeah.
guess my question is like, was it the community too? Or
Absolutely.
was it the community? Okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
absolutely the community, and it was absolutely just being able to meet more people in the music
Okay.
field and to further expand my abilities and
Hmm.
just to learn something new,
Hmm.
and also just find myself.
Right.
Music has always been a part of my life since I was 8 years old, and the community bands that I'm in are wonderful and they're great, but there's a sense of like seriousness about, being a concert band player.
Hmm.
And I always heard, because I had no experience with it, that
Hmm.
marching band is like a totally different world. You
Right.
get to dance and you get to have fun, and that's definitely more my personality. I'm very
Right.
outgoing and boisterous. And
Mhm.
I thought that, as much as I love concert band, that might be more my speed.
Okay.
So I had to do what I had to do to figure out how to infiltrate.
Yeah, right, right. And that's awesome. I mean, it's awesome to kind of see that. And you're exactly right, because obviously, the marching band's there to cheer, excuse me, on the, team and be
Yeah.
there and be their cheerleaders, right?
Yeah.
In music form. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
exactly.
And it's
Yeah.
just nice that you pushed yourself to kind of do that, and play. Because I mean, obviously I haven't been to an actual game, but I've been seeing like so much on your Facebook feed. I mean,
Yeah.
just of how much fun you're having, the parade you're
Yeah.
having, the performance you're having, and it seems like so much fun. you
It
know.
really is. It's a great time. It's so fun to be able to get out there and get everybody excited about music, because
Yeah.
that's really what it is for me. It's just making everybody excited about
Hmm.
music. It's about seeing the little faces and hoping that I make a lasting impression on them, that they go home and think, when I'm bigger, I want to play a clarinet.
Right.
Or, the older set thinking, well, I haven't touched my instrument in years, but they look like they're having so much fun. Let me pull mine out and dust the dust off of it.
Hmm. So let me be a little like, I don't want to say corny, but this is just something where I told you before we kind of got into this podcast, where philosophical, I guess we'll say. Oh, philosophical. So you know, so far in your life, you keep saying this, and this is something I have two things I want to ask you. So
Mhm,
you keep saying to me that you're like, well, I didn't feel like pursuing music. You kind of
mhm,
said that, and music education, which you're exactly
mhm,
right. Yeah, I pursued music education. I got all these big fancy degrees, yada yada yada, whatever. But did you ever think of how you're pursuing music is still educating yourself, right?
oh, for sure.
Did
Yeah.
you ever think about it that way? Because it's like I feel like even though you didn't do it as as a career, as a professional career, if we want to call it that, you're still doing it as a career, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because like, and it's funny because I felt like even experience wise, I mean, you're just saying this, you know, you've done tons of concert band, you wanted to do marching band, so you did that, and you wanted to do pep band, so you're doing that like kind of within the Baltimore Ravens because that's all kind of part
Absolutely.
of it, right? So I mean, I guess like, and I'm looking this in the adult education realm. What do you feel like is like your, if you would look at it as a teacher, what do you feel is like your interests or your drive or your needs that you're fulfilling in music making? You know, does that make sense? I know it's very philosophical, and take a second for a second,
Yeah.
just because like, and I look at it this way, and I mean, for example, it just seems like you're fulfilling your musical needs that you always wanted to beyond the
Mhm.
classroom, right? And that's
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I want to bring you on this podcast because I'm seeing that in you, that you're always up for a challenge, you're always up for
Yeah.
playing those kind of things. But it's like you didn't necessarily go the traditional route, which is
Right.
okay,
Right.
you know, but like you see where I'm going with that?
Yeah, I know. And I think in hindsight, because everybody says hindsight's 2020, I think in
Yeah.
hindsight, what I know now about myself and my
Mhm.
musical career, um, I would have liked to have pursued music as a, a degreed profession. And, it goes for specifically in this moment, it fulfills me and it makes me feel that sense of community that we've been talking about, and
Mhm.
it helps me escape from some of my realities, and
Sure.
there's all of those things. But then, like I just mentioned, just seeing little faces and hoping that I can, maybe one day inspire a little one to pick up an instrument, or my own two kids. I love
Mhm.
when they get excited about music. My son knows all of the Ravens like big songs that we play, and he makes our Alexa say it all the time. And it's really special to be able to share my love of music with other people,
Right.
especially younger kids, because I am an educator and in
Mhm.
my 9 to 5, if you will. And
Yeah.
so I believe in being a lifelong learner because
Mhm.
this world is ever changing. So
Mhm.
why not be a lifelong learner in my music field too?
Yeah, right. Well, it just fascinates me because I guess where I'm going with this, and then we can kind of jump into a few other things. Like I'm I'm kind of an advocate because like back in the day when, you know, I call it the golden age of bands, and this is, you know,
Mm.
this kind of goes on to one of a couple of the concerts I'm spinning and playing. It's the fact that like every town had these groups, and it really
Yeah.
wasn't too much in the public schools at that time. It was, but
Hmm.
not the way it is today. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? What I mean by that is just like you said I didn't study privately. Well, that's how you had to learn music back in
Yeah.
the day. Like you could, like I had a gentleman, he's unfortunately passed, in my town, who said, "Oh, I played in the high school," but like he didn't really learn through the school district. You know what I
Okay.
mean? If you
Hmm.
go that way, he learned. He had teachers. He learned through
Yeah.
performances, and I'm finding it kind of not comical, but just very interesting how you're doing that too. You're not going the traditional route as
Hmm.
far as the fancy colleges and the fancy this and whatever, but you're going and latching on these different groups and learning within the community. And I think it's
Yeah.
just fascinating, which I think is awesome. You know, I'm a big
Yeah.
supporter of that, as you know. But it's just like I keep like trying to gravitate towards that because, you know, and not that I'm trying to make you feel like, you know, you didn't have, you know, I know you're maybe regretting being a music teacher, but it's a fact of like you're still doing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I watched
Hmm.
him do that through the community too, and of how he described. I mean, we're talking like back in the days when there was youth bands. I know there's still youth
Yeah.
orchestras that had nothing to do with anything with
Yeah.
you know, the school districts at that time. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And that kind of thing. And not that institutions are, you know, anything, but it's just a fact of that love of music. And I hear it already in your voice. It's like you want children to see you do that, your own children even, to
Yeah.
see you play your instrument so that you can pass that on, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just some things. I know it might be a little deep.
That's okay.
Trying to get into. So as you're moving forward, and I guess like I do have like one other direction that I kind of wanted to go.
Sure.
So as you're moving forward, like what's your next challenges as far
Oh,
as, you
geez.
know, music? Do you ever think about that? You know,
um
and
yeah, so I think that this year, just challenging myself to score better on my
Hmm.
auditions for my
Okay.
marching section of it. Well, maybe as a whole too, musically. But I think I focused so much on achieving the section leader
Hmm.
interview status.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of there right now.
Hmm.
And I definitely focus heavily during marching band season on my marching band career.
Okay.
So currently, my
Hmm.
goals are to keep getting better at marching.
Right.
I have to learn how to stay on tempo a little bit better. It's very new for me.
Well,
But
yeah. Well.
in the future moving forward, I'm not sure. The Ravens stuff was really big and really
Hmm.
new and really different, and it
Hmm.
still feels really big and overwhelming in a really good way.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm not sure what my next moves
Yeah.
are. Who knows?
That's
Maybe
okay.
I'll
No.
join the Commander's band next.
What else? What else you're going to infiltrate? That's what I should say,
Right,
right?
right. I was listening to some of the bands at Community Band Day, and I was like, I
Mhm.
wonder if I could join those guys. I'm always thinking, who can I infiltrate next?
And that's awesome that they have those, kind of
Yeah,
performance
it's
that
so
way,
cool.
because, it's just fascinating to when everybody kind of gets together. So,
Yeah.
so anyway, I know this is going to be, and by all means, I figured you'd be this way. So like I wanted to talk a little bit and just ask a couple questions, because as me is, trying to always provide, I guess,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, these different kind of musicy groups. So we met at the annual Community Band by the Sea, and I'll give you just a little bit of a side thing of how this all happened, and how it's kind of funny and how it's evolved. So when I was down there before the pandemic, vacationing in Wildwood in your hometown, I met some music teachers down there, and I literally walked past Burn Plaza, and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to do a concert there? Just for fun, wouldn't it be
Yeah.
cool to just do one down at the beach? And, so I went for it. And of course, the pandemic happened, and then it was the year after the pandemic, and those music teachers I talked to didn't really come out right away, but we had this vast amount of other people that kind of came out, and believe it or not, they're going to be joining us finally this year. So they're going to actually be with us. But I
Nice.
wanted to see, and get your little bit of opinions of like what interest you to kind of come to that, because like you didn't know me,
Nope.
you know,
Nope.
and I'm just this
Yeah.
weird guy from Pennsylvania, New York, New Hampshire, wherever I'm
All the
living. That's
places.
just all the places I've been, and just started this, and you came, and now it's like, and we'll talk about this in a second, but you brought friends,
I
you know.
sure did. Every year I'll bring more. Yeah, so I was at the Bel Air band one night,
Mhm.
and Ray, my section leader,
Okay.
also clarinetist, came
Yeah.
up to me and he was like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Wildwood." And he's like, "That's what I thought. So let me tell you about this gig that I did last summer." And he
Okay.
started talking about the Community Band by the Sea. And I was like, "This is amazing. I never even knew that this existed. This is so cool." And he's like, "Well, yeah, it's still really new." And he was like, "We need more people. And it would be really cool if you came since this is your hometown."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Absolutely, sign me up."
Hmm.
So I was super intrigued that, yeah, you were joining or forming this community band in
Yeah.
my hometown, which was awesome. But then you've made it out to Maryland people. Like you
Hmm. Yeah.
managed to get these Maryland people. And I remember asking Ray, how did you get into this? And he was like, well, we vacation in Wildwood, and I fell into it, or however he stumbled into it.
Yep.
And it really made me realize how small our world actually is,
Yes. Hmm.
especially in the music community. And
Hmm.
so yeah, so I signed up, and then I came back, and last year I brought some friends, and this year I'm bringing some more friends, and I just think it's really cool. And I love that it allows me to share my hometown with people that
Hmm.
I've met in my current home. But
Hmm.
I also love that you're bringing music to my small community. I think it's
Okay.
really, really special that, um, you know, all my old people that come and watch us, my favorite old ladies that come, they're
Hmm.
so excited. They've been talking about this year since the day after last year's. They can't wait to come out and watch. And it's really special to be able to say that somebody who isn't necessarily from my hometown, but
Mhm.
loves to vacation there and visit there and
Yep.
be a part of this hometown, can bring this music into it and
Mhm.
bring other people to it too. And as spectators and as players, it's really cool and really special. So why wouldn't I want to be a part of that?
Well, thank you. And I'm not, I appreciate it. I'm not by any means, don't indulge
Yeah.
me. I'm at all like, I just went for it because like, just like you said, I mean, I've been going down since, oh goodness gracious, since I was like 5 or 6 or
Yeah.
something,
See?
every summer almost. I mean, I think it might have been a few we didn't, but, and it's always been a place. And I know it's like,
Yeah.
it's hard because like you said, the small world, of
Hmm.
that, like, that's what the first time I did it, I was afraid I was going to have 4 or
Right.
5.
Yeah.
And then, I still laugh at this, and I know you weren't there for the first concert, but we had like weird things set, like sign up, like bassoons. Not that they're weird, but bassoons,
But
like
just like
bass
obscure.
clarinets,
Yeah.
obscure instruments. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
we're like getting a full band here. Like, and it's like, what's going on,
Yeah.
with all of this? And it's true. And it's like, now, like you said, there's this calling with Maryland, and then I have people coming, from Pennsylvania and New York State, New Jersey, and
So cool.
it's neat to. And the funny thing is, just like you said about community, and I think you kind of hit it on the head, where it's like we all know each other, even
Yeah,
though, I mean, we
exactly.
do now that we see each
Right.
other every year, but it's just something. But and I guess, like, and it's awesome that you've been coming, but I'm just striving for this, like, people making music. Like, I just keep
Hmm.
going back to that, and that's the only reason why I'm doing it. It's just for
Hmm.
fun, and
Hmm.
making music. But it's like, and I was just wondering, like, and I'm not saying this the wrong way, but like, you come every year. Like, what's that drive? You know what I mean? And then you bring people too. And I know I said that already, but that people have been keep coming back. And I
Yeah.
just think it's amazing for me, just because it's like, wow, you know,
Yeah.
like, they like it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That kind of thing. So I mean, I don't know. I'm always interested in people's motivation. That's why I asked
Yeah.
you that
Yeah.
question.
I think for me specifically, I think it's just a great opportunity, a great
Mhm.
excuse, if you will, to go home.
Okay.
And why not be able to go home and also bring my instrument and play in music for vacationers and locals? And I
Right.
just think that that's really cool. And I love that I'm able to bring my new friends from my
Mhm.
home and introduce them to where I grew up, let them kind of get a taste for it while also playing their instruments. And I think
Right.
it's even cooler that we get our music ahead of time and we kind of practice it, run through it together on our own. Kim and I were sitting
Mhm.
down a couple of nights ago, just playing through it, just listening to
Right.
it and just kind of getting it all together. And, so we're at home doing these things for months leading up to it. And then
Mhm.
we show up and we get some rehearsal time together and then we put it to concert and we sound really good. And it's
Yeah.
just really cool and really special that we're able to have such a limited amount of together practice time, but yet we can turn it out and make it good enough for show. And it's just really cool. I really enjoy it.
That's cool you brought that up too, because I know, and that's what I've been trying to tell a lot of people. Like, we don't. I mean, we get together the day before.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know?
6 hours total, maybe,
Yeah, if
that we get
that.
to
I mean,
practice it together.
I know, and it's like, I mean, it's why I say it's like, I give you music a month in advance, so
Yeah.
everybody looks at it, but
Right,
it's like
exactly.
we're live right away, and I was
Yes, we
worried
are.
about that. I'll be honest with you, I was worried that, and this is just me, but I don't like picking the watered down music.
Right. Oh no,
So it's
you
like,
don't. No, you don't. No, you don't. You definitely give us a great repertoire.
I still
It's good.
remember.
It's
I'm
great.
Yeah, I remember actually the clarinet section. I'll point this out really quickly. It was last year, paragraph 3. That's all I have
Uh-huh.
to say.
Paragraph 3.
And everyone
Yep.
was freaking out. And then after the concert, like, I like
Yep. Michelle
that.
and Stuart were at
Yes.
the community band day, just spectating because they were previous members of Bel Air Band.
Mhm.
So I went up to them. So Michelle plays clarinet, Stuart is a sax player, and they both mentioned paragraph 3. Do you remember? I was like, how could we all forget?
It's an obscure Franz von Suppe piece. So
But it's
yeah.
great. It's great.
It's good music. It's
It
hard.
is. It's hard. It's so hard. I remember looking looking at Ray and thinking, Ray, this is all you. But no, it all works out in the end, and it's a great time, and it's just really fun to be able to play to everybody and some seagulls.
Yeah, right.
The glorious sounds of the seagulls in the background. It just makes the beach town band vibes all come together.
Yeah. Well, that's great, and I find that, well, thank you. I'm just interested. Like I said, I wanted to ask you that because I know you've been a true supporter of it, and by any means, I'm not trying to indulge it or advertise it. It's just more of, I don't know. It's something that I feel like I'm trying to get folks to enjoy and, come and listen and hear music. And of course, the musicians come out and play and, of course, come to Wildwood.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a couple more questions for you. I keep saying, as you're, you mentioned this, and I kind of wanted to go in this as we're kind of, getting closer to the end of this. You mentioned about, sharing with others.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You mentioned sharing music with others. I know you mentioned sharing, music with your children, sharing music, within the community. I wanted to ask about that. And again, I know it's more of a deep question here, but first of all, what do you want to share? And why do you think it's important to share that music?
Well, I mean, I want to share my love because my love feels special and I want to share that with people. But I think kind of going back to just knowing for me personally that music is a really good escape for me. I think that more people can find a good escape in it too. So if I'm able to kind of express myself through music, I hope that I can kind of share that with people so that maybe they can find a way to express themselves through music too.
Right.
And I think that's important because I think music is important, and having the arts in schools. I know we keep talking about kind of outside of school, but even in the institutionalized schools, I think the arts is so important. And I think that it's a great escape for so many kids that might not have any other way to escape. And it's important to me that we're able to give this to people. And if I can have just a little bit of help with doing Raven stuff in the community or doing community band stuff in the community, then I feel accomplished.
Yeah, well said. And by all means, I know my focus is beyond the classroom, but no, I'm a very big supporter of, arts in school, all arts. I mean, just music. What pains me, and I'm sure it does you being educators, when those start disappearing or limited and all those kind of things. And I know, the teachers that are out there, the heroes out there, I call them, are trying to keep them moving, and it's hard today.
It is.
With test, well, you don't have to tell you, but testing and all that other stuff, going on, and it's just,
and I think for me personally, I always harken back to the schools because I was not fortunate enough to be able to have private lessons. I was not fortunate enough to be able to get things outside of school. So for me, if it wasn't for my music ed programs in elementary school, I wouldn't be any sort of musician that I might want to consider myself today, because I would not have had those opportunities had it not been for my school district. So I always advocate hard for it.
Yeah, then that's great to say too. I mean, it's just, you're exactly right. I mean, you have this whole, you have your work life, your family life, but you have this whole other life, playing with music that literally happened because you were in school doing it. And if you think about it, and I feel like watching you, it's breathtaking to just see you just be so motivated and excited about playing music, because it's, as I said, I've met a lot of people who do it in the schools, love it, stops, and then it's kind of like that was their life then, and this is their life now, right? This is my adult life, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it's sad, but I'm happy you're doing it. So as we're wrapping this up, this is something I kind of ask all my participants, and again, I know keep saying this is deep. It's kind of a deep thing. Speaking of these individuals, just because I have come across these folks, like for example, I have a great friend who was an all-state trombonist, and he does not play his trombone anymore today. And, it hurts sometimes because he could be such a great player out there. And,
Mhm.
and I know life comes up and kids come up and
Right.
everything comes up and, trust me, we all know. But I was interested in you as being an advocate in the community world who has
Mhm.
beyond keeps educating herself and keeps pushing herself to new and more challenges and marching band and concert bands and what other band I can join next kind of attitude. What would you say to folks that, where, I know there's many different, but either have stopped playing or are interested in playing again,
Yeah.
as far as that, just to kind of get those things rolling. I mean, it could be somebody who's
Yeah.
done it in school, or it could be somebody that, I always say this, even in the adult world, you can learn how to play an instrument.
It's so true. And I think that I would say if there's even just a small part of you that misses it, you should pick it up and try, because you can. It's like riding a bike. You probably are going to find that once you start blowing air through that horn, you're going to remember the notes. You're going to remember the fingerings. You're going to remember the intonation, and it's just going to come back to you. So
Mhm.
I think that if there's even just an ounce of you that's like, I think it would be cool. I have that horn sitting in my closet all dusty. I should pull it out. I think you should. I think you should
Mhm.
pull it out and just try, because you never know. You never know where it might take you.
Well said. And I mean, you brought up two things. I always use the bike analogy. It's like,
Hmm.
you ride bike and then you get a car and then you never ride bike again. And
Yeah.
then kind of later in adult life, sometimes you ride a bike again.
Yeah.
You will remember.
Yes,
You
you
know what I
do.
mean?
Yes, you do. I
And
might not remember the names of every single note, but I remember how to play them
that's
because
right.
it's like muscle memory. It's just there.
That's right. Yeah. And even if I use this the instrument. If the instrument is sitting in the closet, you said that too.
Hmm.
Why is it still in the closet? Why isn't it
Exactly.
gone? Why isn't it sold at a
Exactly.
yard sale or given to somebody? It's still there.
Yep. Yep. That means there's a little part of you that might want to play.
Well said. Well, hey, Annmarie, I just want to say, thank you. First of all, thank you for being on the podcast. I appreciate it. I just love your upbeat, mentality and thought process, and just how excited you are about making music. And I also want to say that it's just, it's just so exciting to see all the things that you are doing, as a musician. I mean, I really have to say that. And I mean, I'm saying that from, someone who is more traditionally in the school programs, right? But
Right.
you continued, and I think that's something to say, just
Yeah.
because you play in a majority of bands and in a marching band, for
Yeah.
goodness sakes, that you never did before. It's for a professional football team. I mean, that's something to say. I mean, that's great. And I
Yeah.
think you know you should know that, it's just it's breathtaking to me to watch you do all of these things and continue making music, because you're sculpting what you want and you're
Yeah.
doing it. So
Yeah.
it's not a thank you, but it's like, keep doing it. you
Yeah. Thank
know
you. Maybe one day my kids will be marching with me too. Maybe they'll be pushing me in my wheelchair because I refuse to stop.
That's great. And I mean, it's just it's great that you have that kind of, motivation. So please don't lose that, because I think you're
Yeah.
you're going to give so much to other people. And like, even that's the reason why I wanted you on this, because it's like right away, it's like, my goodness. I mean, I've hardly known you from other than coming down to the Wildwood group, that I see you like once a
Yeah.
year, and it's like,
Yep.
we're always bopping in, talking about
Yeah.
this whole thing of music and how we're going to do this, and discussing, hey, I got someone so who can come and play. And it's like, so keep doing that. So
Sure.
but so thank you so much, and thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you. It's been awesome.